According to the Doomsday Clock, it is 100 seconds to midnight. That means that the world is closer than it has ever been to total destruction. On all fronts, our species is threatened with annihilation by a range of threats from nuclear war to climate Armageddon. The apocalypse looms large over our lives. COVID-19 has demonstrated to us just how fragile our societies really are and how unprepared we are for major catastrophe. Not only that, but we never had the moment from the movies where everyone realizes the threat and unites to make the change we need. Rather the opposite. COVID-19 has led to a resurgence in extremist hate, and now Madagascar is on the brink of the world's first climate change-induced famine. It's really hard to be optimistic these days. Planetarian is a story set in the aftermath of the doomsday scenario we find ourselves faced with. Originally a visual novel, it's a short, tragic, yet touching story of a robot who teaches a man about the beauty of the stars. Its formula of a comedic beginning, heartwarming middle, tragic separation, and then emotional reunion forms the basis of the nakige genre, literally crying game. The movie adaptation, Hoshi no Hito, which is set after the events of the visual novel and uses flashbacks to tell the original story, is of questionable quality. Reviewers tend to dislike the over-reliance on flashbacks, which eat up a significant amount of the movie's runtime while also cutting a lot of the events of the original novel. That said, there is a lot about the movie to appreciate. The soundtrack, praised from the game, remains stellar in this adaptation, and the movie is undeniably emotional. Some people were disappointed with how the movie ended. See, at the end of the visual novel, Yumemi, the robot girl, sacrifices herself to save the protagonist. In their final moments together, Yumemi reflects on her wish that if there is a heaven for robots, that they not be separated from humans. Afterwards, following her instructions, the protagonist retrieves her memory card, abandons his gun, and walks off into the wasteland. At the end of the movie, the protagonist, now known as the Stargazer, passes away, having left Yumemi's memory card with a trio of children who will teach the world about the stars in his stead. In heaven, the Stargazer reverts to his youthful body, as he was when he met Yumemi, and they reunite in a planetarium. Now, as emotional as this is, it does raise some questions. Like, Yumemi's memory card still exists, so what happens if someone puts it in a new body? Are there now two Yumemis? Does the one in heaven disappear? This may seem like splitting hairs, but the movie calls explicit attention to the memory card. Yumemi says that her personality can be put in a new body, and the Stargazer realizes that a statue the villagers were worshipping is actually a compatible robot body, but is unable to insert the memory card in time. If the writers wanted to, they could easily have just not written the memory card in. But they did. Despite the explicitly religious themes of the story, the core message is far more universal and secular. When someone we love dies, we both leave something of ourselves with each other. Planetarian manifests this literally, with the Stargazer leaving his pendant decorated with the constellation Cygnus around Yumemi's neck as he leaves it with her memory card. Then, in failing health, the Stargazer exchanges the memory card with the trio of children for a cross pendant. With each parting, the characters leave an impression on one another. Yumemi taught the Stargazer about the beauty of the night sky and passed on her wish to continue teaching people about the stars for eternity. The Stargazer in turn passes on this wish to the children. In this way, both Yumemi and the Stargazer live on, their hopes and dreams impressed upon the next generation. So the heaven depicted at the end isn't literal, or if it is, that's not the only meaning of it. Really, the point is that Yumemi and the Stargazer have succeeded in reviving a reverence for the beauty of the world and a hope for the future, and so long as that hope survives, they will be immortal. I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Quite a cynical quote, because it implies that not even a civilization-ending conflict that bombs us back to the Stone Age would be sufficient in convincing us hairless monkeys of the futility of war. Is it really in our nature to pursue each other's destruction to that extent? Questions like these are distressing. It's horrible to think that no matter what we do, no matter how much time passes, our species is incapable of improving, just stuck in an endless loop. Is this really as good as it gets? War, famine, homelessness, all while the rich take joyrides in spaceships? It's important to recognize that this is the context in which works like Planetarian exist. In a way, Planetarian confronts the existential dread of the apocalypse by presenting a personal solution. Even if there is no cure for the illness that plagues human society, no way out of our cycle of destruction, we can still preserve that flame of hope and reverence for nature. We can make our lives and the lives of those around us richer, even as the world around us dies. It's not just the characters who have to cope with the end of the world, but the writer. Humanity Has Declined is a 2012 anime best remembered for a scene in which a talking loaf of bread commits suicide. The setting is, in some sense, similar to Planetarian. However, while Planetarian depicts a breakdown in society, people reduced to scavengers and mercenaries in a world devoid of color, Humanity Has Declined depicts a vibrant and quaint world. Amidst the ruins of civilization, humans continue to live their lives, one day at a time. There's a sequence in the opening that illustrates this really well. Set to Real World by NaNoWriMo, the title first appears over a gray cityscape before being swept away by fairies and sparkles to reveal a vibrant pastel landscape with a small village. This isn't to say that this decline is entirely positive, but problems like food scarcity are never treated as serious threats, but more a daily inconvenience. Mankind isn't thriving, but they're not gone either. There is a certain resignation to the gradual decline of civilization, a common understanding that humanity is on the road to extinction, but none of the characters dwell on that. Unlike Planetarian, with its reverence for the night sky lost to war and disaster, Humanity Has Declined is a bit more realistic with its outlook on the past. The show critiques the wastefulness of modern industry and has a certain romantic fondness for the comforts of home and the familiar. This extends to the characters, where Yumemi is optimistic, expressing faith in the ultimate goodness of mankind, Watashi is cynical and selfish. The reverence for the past that Planetarian has is replaced in Humanity Has Declined with a quiet resignation to the unending march of time. The past will never return, we can only ever catch glimpses of it in our dreams before returning to reality. A reality where mass-producing manga for worldwide consumption is a bit wasteful, but it still might be a good idea to read and write stories. A reality where the space probes Pioneer and Voyager don't care for the meaningless exploration of space, but for the warmth of home. A reality where... Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Humanity Has Declined posits the idea that it's not blind optimism that will save mankind, but a refusal to push limits. I compared Humanity Has Declined to romance works before, and I really do mean that. Its style and philosophy, its fear of technological progress, is very reminiscent of writers like Mary Shelley, who feared what horrors scientific progress might awaken. Ultimately, Humanity Has Declined is, like Planetarian, a product of its time. Made in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, it's no wonder that the story takes on what I see to be a fundamentally anti-capitalist stance, that growth for growth's sake, the reckless pursuit of expansion, is dangerous. And while I might not be a total Luddite, sorry, I like the internet, it's true that the direction we're headed in is decline. The apocalypse is fictional. We've been conditioned to expect some kind of dramatic conclusion to humanity, either our descent into darkness and chaos or going out in a blaze of glory, but The fact is that doomsday isn't an inevitability. There's that specific word, decline. Not apocalypse, not doomsday, not end, but decline. The solutions that we will need to implement to counteract the effects of global climate change and pollution will require many of us, especially in the global north, to make sacrifices. And, in a sense, those sacrifices will be a decline, but they won't be the end. We need to prepare for the effects of climate change, not to preserve our current society, but to create the best possible future for the next generation. Likewise, we need to come to terms with the fact that it's probably not a good idea to hang on to weapons that could exterminate all life on Earth. In Humanity Has Declined, people seem to have largely moved past the idea of nationalism. The decline of humanity will lead to an equalization of conditions around the world, because first world nations can only sustain the current standard of living we have through an exploitation of the third world that will need to end. The conclusion I've come to is that we can't face our collective future until we realize that we need both a hope for the future and an acknowledgement of our decline. We need to preserve our reverence for nature, our ability to dream, and then carry that forward into our decline, because the world that will be created in the aftermath of industrial capitalism is ours to decide.